Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Russell. When my wife asked me to leave for her new man, I knew I had to stop fighting for us. She wanted her freedom to do whatever she wanted, to go wherever she pleased, to just live without any accountability. I just nodded and walked away. But before I tell you how it all ended, you need to understand how we got here. You need to know where it all started because this was a slow unraveling that began years ago, even before either of us noticed. My wife, Lorie, and I didn't just fall in love out of nowhere. We grew up together. Our families were close, and we were always around each other. It felt like we'd known each other our whole lives because, well, we actually had. She lived 3 houses down from mine. If you grew up in a small community like ours, you'll understand that kind of closeness. We officially started dating when I was 18 and she was 16. I had just finished high school and was working part-time while figuring out my next step, and she was in her junior year. We were each other's first real relationship, and at that age, when the world feels huge and the future is full of promises, our love felt unshakable. By the time I turned 20, we got married. I know that sounds young to a lot of people, but back then, it didn't feel that way. Our hearts were in it. We truly believed that love alone would be enough to see us through anything. We were figuring everything out together, and honestly, there was something beautiful in the struggle. Soon after our wedding, we had our first and only child, a boy. Becoming parents at that age wasn't easy, but there was something incredibly rewarding about it. He became our little world. We worked hard, took on whatever jobs we could get, and leaned on the help of our families when things got tight. But through all of it, I never doubted our love. We were in sync. Our families were always around to support us. For a long time, I thought that the foundation was unbreakable. Those early years came with a feeling full of love and purpose with a clear direction. We didn't have it all, but we had each other. And at the time, that felt like more than enough. As I look back, I can honestly say that our marriage had its ups and downs. Like any marriage, we had our usual challenges. There were disagreements, but it never felt extreme. In fact, for the most part, life felt good. We were growing, learning, and figuring it all out together. Financially, things steadily improved over the years. We weren't rich, but we weren't struggling anymore either. But what really kept us going was raising our son, watching him grow into a young man who was ready to go off to college. That was the best part of our lives. I couldn't imagine it any other way. But when our son left for college, that's when the cracks in our relationship became impossible to ignore. Everything had been about our son for so long that we had forgotten about each other. We'd always said we would focus on our marriage once he was older, but the truth was we never really did. It took the silence of the house for me to realize how far apart my wife and I have drifted. The thing is, our son had been more than just our child. He was the glue. And once he was gone, I realized there wasn't much holding Lorie and me together anymore. I still loved her deeply. But after years of focusing so much on everything else, it felt like I was trying to pick up the pieces of a relationship that had been slowly falling apart. I wanted intimacy again. I wanted us to remember what it was like when we were just 2 people who were in love. But that didn't seem to be on her mind. Instead of coming home and talking to me like we used to, she started spending more time outside the house, always with a vague excuse. She would stay out late, sometimes not even telling me where she was going. I presumed she was just trying to find herself again, trying to find some space after all the years of family life. But the gap between us grew wider with each passing day. Then, one evening, as I stepped into the living room, I saw Lorie passed out on the couch. Her phone was beside her on the couch. The screen lit up brightly in the dim light. It seemed she dozed off while operating it. As I walked closer, something caught my eye. On her phone, she had the Tinder app open. When I picked it up to see it properly, she was chatting with several men who seemed to have an interest in her. My heart sank. I stood there for a moment, just staring at the screen. I didn't immediately know how to react. I needed to confront her. I had to stay composed, despite the deep hurt welling up inside of me. This wasn't something I ever imagined happening. especially not with Lorie. We had been together for so long. She was the woman I thought I knew inside and out. I waited for her to wake up, not knowing exactly how I was going to approach her. I just needed to hear it from her. I needed her to explain what I was seeing. But when she finally woke up, I didn't waste time asking her what she was doing on Tinder. She frowned. "Why did you touch my phone?" she snapped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Lorie," I said, my voice quieter but more firm now, "you're on a dating app. You're talking to other men. What the hell is going on?" But instead of owning up to it or showing any kind of remorse, she got defensive. "Why are you looking through my phone?" "Huh?" she demanded. "That's an invasion of my privacy." Not once did she admit she was wrong. Instead, she was angry at me for finding out. She was angry at me for trying to understand what was happening between us. And at that moment, I realized she didn't care. I was left standing there, staring at her, trying to wrap my head around what had just happened. At that point, I still loved her. I wanted to fix things. I wanted to believe that this wasn't the end, that somehow we could rebuild what we had lost. So, in the days that followed, I tried. I suggested couples therapy. I wanted to give us a chance, but Lorie didn't even acknowledge it. She didn't even give me the courtesy of a response. I even reached out to her mom. I told her what had been going on, how things between us had gotten worse, how Lorie seemed completely disconnected. Her mom promised she would talk to her, and I believed her. But nothing changed. Lorie kept on doing whatever she wanted, and I kept trying to make sense of it all, hoping for a miracle that would never come. I knew I couldn't drag our son into this. He was busy with his own life, building his career in the financial world, and the last thing I wanted was for him to feel like he had to pick a side. I didn't want to put that on him. So I kept it between Lorie and me, not wanting to ruin his relationship with his mother over something I still wasn't sure how to process. One Thursday evening, something told me to head home early. I didn't call Lorie to let her know I was coming early. I figured it would be a nice surprise. I pulled into the driveway and walked into the house, and the first thing I noticed was that the house smelled different. As I got into the living room, I saw 2 wine glasses on the coffee table. I looked around and felt something was wrong. Just then, Lorie walked in from the hallway. She wasn't surprised to see me. "Oh, you're home early," she said. I kept my voice steady, and I said, "Should I have called first?" And without skipping a beat, she said, "Wouldn't have changed anything." She walked over to the other part of the room, picked up a folder, and handed it to me. Divorce papers. Signed. I stood there stunned, holding the papers in my hand, unable to process how we got there. I had to ask, even though I didn't need the answer, "Who is he?" I don't even know why I asked. But she just shrugged and said, "Does it matter?" There was no guilt in her voice. And just when I thought it couldn't get any colder, she said, "Don't delay signing and moving out. My new man is waiting." I didn't respond as I walked to the bedroom with the papers in my hand. All I kept thinking was, how did we get here? That night, I knew the fight was over. I tried not to cry that day. After everything Lorie and I had been through, after all the years, the memories, the sacrifices, this was how it was ending. Eventually, I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. I explained everything to him. I told him I needed to move forward, and he would be handling everything. As we tried to sort out who gets what and where, I decided to move out. It wasn't long after I left that the whispers started reaching me. Lorie was already seeing a younger guy. Some said she had been seeing him even before I moved out. I didn't respond to any of it, and I didn't ask for details. But I won't lie, it hurt. Eventually, our son found out about the divorce. I didn't want to tell him, but he asked questions, and I couldn't lie. He spoke to both of us, separately. And after hearing everything, he made his own decision. He told me he loved his mother, but he couldn't respect what she did. He said she broke the family, not just by leaving, but by how she handled it. And though I never asked him to take sides, he made it clear he was standing by me. That meant more than I can explain. After the divorce, I went through a very quiet phase. I wasn't interested in jumping back into any romantic relationship. Not because I hated love or didn't want companionship, but because I was still healing and didn't even realize how broken I had become until the noise of a long, unhappy marriage was gone. I avoided dating completely. I wasn't ready for that kind of vulnerability, but I did stay in contact with a few female friends. Meanwhile, life didn't exactly go the way Lorie had probably imagined it would. Over the course of 2 years, she went through 4 different relationships. The first one was with a younger guy. Then came the next couple of men, closer to her age, maybe more settled, but still not looking for anything deep. Each time it was a cycle. They came in, it seemed promising, and then it fell apart. From what I heard through mutual friends, they were not interested in anything serious, at least not the kind of serious Lorie was hoping for. Eventually it became pretty clear. She was chasing something she used to have with me, stability, trust, consistency, but that kind of bond isn't something you just find in a few months or even a year. It takes time. It takes honesty. It takes actually working through the hard days, and not just jumping ship when things get uncomfortable. And while I was slowly learning how to live again, she seemed stuck trying to recreate a past she had willingly thrown away. Then, out of nowhere, just as I was finally beginning to open up emotionally to someone, Lorie reached out to me. The woman I was growing close to was a widowed friend of Lorie's, believe it or not. She had been a quiet, steady presence in my life during my healing phase. She didn't rush me, didn't try to fix me, she just listened. And that alone built a kind of comfort I hadn't felt in years. One morning, I woke up to a message on my phone from Lorie. Her message was short and, I'll admit, a little unexpected. She apologized. She said she was sorry for how everything ended. She didn't exactly ask to get back together as my wife, but she made it clear she wanted us to somehow reconnect. Maybe not as husband and wife, but as 2 people who once meant something to each other. I thought about it for a while, but in the end, I responded respectfully. I told her I appreciated the apology. It was long overdue, but I couldn't go backward. I had come too far, emotionally, to open a door that nearly destroyed me. Not long after that, she tried to get our son involved. She reached out to him, probably hoping he could help bridge the gap between us. But he refused. He told her plainly that he couldn't be the middleman in something that hurt me so deeply. He saw firsthand what that divorce did to me, and he had made up his mind not to be a pawn in any emotional tug-of-war. That meant more to me than he'll ever know. By then, I had already started something new, something healthier. And even though it wasn't perfect, it was real. And I wasn't about to mess that up. It took me a long time to get to this place where I could talk about my past without feeling like it was crushing my chest. But now, I can say this with a clear heart. I've moved on, and I've done it in peace. Eventually, I found myself talking more and more to someone I had known for years. She was a widowed friend of Lorie's, someone who had always shown me quiet kindness. While everything around me felt like it was crumbling, she was steady. We reconnected not because I needed someone to fix me, but because she already accepted me, even in my brokenness. Our relationship started slow, and honestly, that's what I needed. When Lorie eventually found out I was dating her widowed friend, she wasn't happy. I guess part of her expected that if I was going to move on, it shouldn't be with someone that close to her. But at that point, I didn't owe her any explanation. She had made her choices. This woman, my partner now, had been more consistent in her friendship to me during my worst days than Lorie had been during our final years of marriage. I wasn't looking for someone to replace Lorie. I was looking for someone who made life feel safe again, and she gave me that without asking for anything in return. As for Lorie, I don't carry hate in my heart. I hope she finds the stability she's been searching for. I really do. But it's not going to be with me. That chapter is closed. I gave everything I could to that marriage, and when it broke, I walked away with my dignity intact. I'm not looking back anymore. My eyes are set on what's ahead, and I finally feel free.